What's going on, AFL? Another edition of AFL Dynasty Podcast. Magic, you were saying before we got on the air that this is our fourth attempt to get this done, and something kept coming up, mostly my fault last week. I forget actually what happened last week, but I know it was my fault. Oh, no, it was Luca's fault. Luca had to record his hockey podcast, but here we are. And Magic and Stokes are here. But Stokes, I'm actually excited because the timing works out, and we can start talking about where some of these dudes have gone and what they're going to look like for next year.
Yeah, I mean that's really cool to have some sort of clarity. And like, had we done this 3 weeks ago, we be thinking about how teams are going to look and what happens with free agency. But now we've got a few landing spots for people, and now I think it'll be a lot more fun to talk about it.
So what we're thinking about doing tonight is what we always do. We're going to go through each roster, kind of give a state of the roster analysis, the way we see it. Again, with having free agency underway, there's going to be a lot of names that are on different teams right now that I think is going to be very interesting. And then we've all kind of talked about just going over things we've learned, lessons we've learned. We are now 3 years into this. I had to go back and count. Let's see. Nino won one, Magic won one, and I won one. That's right. I had to remember that one.
Oh, hey, champ.
No coincidence that I'm wearing a Champions shirt. The only piece of clothing in my house that says Champions is a Nugget shirt. So, but yeah, I won that one. We're not going to do too much on revisiting last season, though, because at this point it's March 12th. But I don't know. Magic, what do you think? You want to go with lessons learned first? You want to go with new rule ideas first? Or you want to start diving into rosters? What do you think?
I think maybe new rules.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, so we get that fresh, get that out of the stables, if you will.
I was looking at chat, and there was a message, I believe, from Vane that kind of sparked something. Not in here. I don't. Is it inbox? Yeah. Draft lottery worked well. Okay. Is draft lottery something that we even got any momentum on? I know we had talked about like a way to get people to prevent from tanking, but we ended up nobody wanted to do the draft lottery, right? Like we just realized we have this group of guys, we trust this group of guys. Let's just go with it.
I don't even remember a lottery coming up, but I would vote no.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the lottery. I mean, you can just end up with really, really bad luck. And as long as people are still putting out a team, I mean, we haven't had too many instances where it's like, hey, this person is clearly trying to lose and things of that nature. I mean, I know that some people prefer like the max points for or whatever to determine who's like how the draft order is going to look. And in the end, I probably wouldn't be opposed to that, but I'm also of the belief that just let these guys, unless we can clearly see something, just let them control their roster however they want to.
I do think last year it got a little ridiculous. I don't remember who started it. I feel like I'm overseeing a kindergarten fight. Like, who started it? But somebody was obviously not playing their best players, and then it led to a domino effect of multiple people doing that, which you understand. Like, if one person's going to do that, the rest, everybody else is going to follow. I don't think that's what we're looking for. I get what you're saying, though, about like max points for Stokes, because you could have a player like Jalen Hyatt, who, he kind of projects as like a high variance player on your bench that you just never feel comfortable starting. And he goes off for like 40 points randomly one week, doesn't help you at all to win a game, but then crushes you in the draft standings. And that's not fair. You were trying your best to win. Your team lost because it's not good. And you still get penalized because Jalen Hyatt's on your bench. So I don't know if that's what we're looking for, but I'm open to anything, not to sound like arrogant, but the three of us on here made the playoffs last year. So none of us were directly affected by, that's right. That's right. One of us had Christian McCaffrey and Kyron Williams and Travis Kelce and still missed.
And Dak Prescott.
And
who's
Dak Prescott.
QB1 for like 8 weeks.
And T. Higgins and still missed the playoffs somehow, some way. Oh boy.
I thought we weren't going over last year.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I wasn't even doing that as a joke. In just my mind, I was like, you had to have made the playoffs. What other rules? Did you take notes on this, Magic? You got any rule suggestions out there? I know one thing people always want to talk about is instead of the 6th seed being the 6th team in the standings, maybe the 6th seed is the team with the highest points. So that's one we always talk about every year. Is there any others that
Yeah.
you have written down?
I mean, that one is probably my biggest one that I would like to see changed. Because
It would have put you in the playoffs.
it would have put me in the semifinals if things
Yeah.
just stayed the same and I got in at 6 instead of where I
Yeah.
probably really should have been. But like, so I mean, I will use myself as a personal example, even though I have been bringing this up since year 1, so it's not just a recent thing. I ended up in 7th. Noah got in at 6th place and got immediately curb stomped out of the playoffs
Yeah.
because his team was just not a real playoff team. And I think, I mean, it's hard to do in fantasy because you don't know who's going to get hurt. You don't know who's going to go off. Like Kyron Williams is a surprise RB4 on the year or whatever. But like, I would think the point is let's have the best teams in the playoffs and have a chance to win, and not teams that may or may not belong in there.
I think that if that rule were proposed, I'd probably vote yes for that because I think I'd prefer to have the teams that are the better ones to be in the playoffs because I mean you can't predict like there's nothing you can do to prevent what your opponent is going to score that week. So all you can do is put your best lineup out there, and if I score 200 and they score 205, I had a great week and still lost. So that sucks, and to have that loss in your record and have that potentially be the thing that keeps you out of the playoffs. So if that were something that were proposed, I'd probably vote yes, just because I would have rather have had in the matchups in the first round or throughout the playoffs better matchups in that regard.
What do you think about something like the number 1 seed and like the number 1 seed and number 2 seed still get the bye, but like the number 1 seed builds the playoff bracket? I've seen that suggested
So
before.
I have so many thoughts on so many things that just got brought up. So to Stokes' point of if you score the second most in the week and you still lose,
Mhm.
I would like to just throw out there we add a median score to every week, so you play 2 games.
Yeah, I've
to
seen
help
that.
to
That's
help
become a
curtail
little
that.
bit more popular in fantasy. I've seen that too.
Yeah, and then as for kind of building out the playoffs, I have in my notes eliminate the bye, but allow people to pick their opponents. So I mean, we can keep the buys, but that's fine. Just something to bring up. I think it would be interesting to have whoever the 1 seed was last year be like, you know who I think sucks? Stokes.
Yeah.
Let me knock him out now. Or it could be, I think his team is really good, but he's got 3 people still on bye this week that are his big dogs. Let me try to get him now so I don't have to see him in 2 weeks, and he's got everyone healthy. So I think it would be interesting and add a new fun layer. I would vote yes on something like that.
Going into the playoffs, I will tell you, like, the 2 most feared teams were Stokes and RVD. And the way the brackets worked out with Costa and I were over the moon thrilled because we were playing in round 1, and this is no slight to Lara. His team was the 1 seed for a reason, but just the way the season played out, his team, I forget what injuries he had or whatever, but the way it looked was Stokes and RVD's teams were the 2 scariest teams. The winner of Costa and me would automatically play Lara, and Stokes and RVD would have to play each other in round 2. I ended up really screwing RVD because any other path he would have won the whole thing. And conversely, like I don't know how it would have gone. Stokes was like many people who played fantasy football this year that had a very stacked team that just laid an absolute egg in week 17. I was victim of it in my other sleeper league. Very weird year in that regard. One of my lessons learned I'm going to get into. But I like that idea. I think as long as you keep it in bounds, and I think our group should be old enough and mature enough to do it. Like, I don't want to get into a whole like, well, you're a terrible team and like all that stuff, but I like the strategy of it. You can build rivalries and think of how fun it would be if I'm like, oh, I want to play Stokes in the first round, then he beats me. Like, that's awkward. I'm like, I picked to play you and I just got my ass kicked. So I like that idea. I would be in favor of that. Going back to Magic's point, the median points thing is interesting. I love at least doing the 6 seed as most points though, because I do think we reward the head-to-head matchups enough by giving the top 5 overall record. And I think you at least build in some insurance for someone like a Magic or any other year where somebody has the second or third most points and they're just not in the playoffs. Because each week they happen to draw the worst matchup. What else do you guys think? Because I know, we'll do this podcast, we'll let it marinate, we'll get through NFL free agency, and then we'll probably, get the rules conversation going. Anything else on your mind as far as rules go?
I like max points for as a draft, kind of a draft order, so that odds are if you go 1-14, chances are your team probably does stink. I think we have that example this year. So like a few kind of random explosion weeks on a bench, I think should still even it out. But I understand the concept of though, like you tried and random person went off that week, and so now you got points that you couldn't have ever foreseen. You would have started that person, and then people would be like, "Why are you tanking? It's only week 8." And then it turns out they score 40, and it's like, well, backfired for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think that's interesting, and I think passing quarterback should get more love.
6-point passing
we could
touchdowns.
reduce the number of points that you need to gain a full point of passing yards from like 25 to 20. Or, I think that's probably it. Or increase passing touchdowns.
Let's see. Who was the NFL
so that we actually
passing leader
reward
last year?
We think this guy's a good quarterback, but this guy's a good fantasy quarterback. And try to reduce the gap of what those two, thoughts are.
Was it Tua? I thought it was Dak. I was going to make a joke at Magic's expense. Damn it! It was Tua. How do you know that, Stokes? Did you just like?
I listen to the Dan Le Batard podcast and they talk about Tua a lot. So.
Oh, okay, I got you. Did Dak sit late because it didn't? No, they had to fight to the end. Okay, I don't know what I was thinking. Jared Goff had more passing yards than Dak. Okay, so I hear you. My only concern is I'm in a different league, and they made some changes in season 3 and 4, and it wasn't like statistical changes. It was like, we're going to add a flex spot. Worked out great for me. My team's loaded. I had in a 16-team league, I had Mike Williams on my bench every week, but there are people that are like legitimately starting Matt Breida every week because they have nobody else. And then you add another flex spot. So I think we're in kind of a tricky spot where the further we go, the harder it gets. And we're still kind of early in this where I think we can still have those conversations. And the good news is we can always put up for a vote and majority wins. I just, I think that one's kind of easy, but then you can also get into the whole, people could say, well, I drafted Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts because we were prioritizing XYZ. I'm all for putting anything up for a vote. I don't have a quarterback right now. So I probably the most unbiased person here, as Jared Stidham is currently sitting in my starting spot of quarterback. What do you think of adjusting stat metrics, Stokes?
I'm all for giving all of us as many opinions as we can. Like this is our league, this is our thing. So any adjustments, if we put it up to a vote and we just live with whatever the results are. There's only so much that we can say or do and we just adjust to it. So I'd be okay with any adjustments to the stats, whether it's adjusting the yardage or adding points for passing touchdowns. Stats wise, it looked like everything set out as it needed to be. I felt like running backs were still difference makers, and as well as when you had guys that the wide receivers that had their big weeks as well. So I'd be cool with putting anything up for a vote.
What do you guys think about the draft? I've been in a league where they were like, all right, this 5th round of the draft is just not mattering enough to keep it going. Do you guys like still having 5 rounds? Does it feel like monotonous? Because the only downside is you have to have 5. Well, we do create the 5 extra roster spots in this league, so I guess it's a moot point. So I guess there's no reason to even continue that point.
Yeah, I think all the drafts that we've had, someone has drafted someone in the 5th round that proved to be important.
Tucker Kraft. It was a crafty pick by me.
And I feel like didn't RVD or someone got Pacheco in the 4th or 5th round, one of the two.
Oh, RVD had a draft where he just killed it. Was it this year? It was this year. He got like Puka Nacua in like the third or fourth round. Yeah, RVD. We need to figure out his scouting system. That is one of my lessons learned, by the way, is how to approach these rookies drafts. I'm excited to get into some of these lessons learned. What else? Any other rule changes? So we talked about playoff bracket. We talked about points for max points. I don't know. I don't know what else. What other rules there would be?
This isn't really a rule change. It's that we don't have a rule. If we have a tie in the playoffs, what do we do?
So we do have fractional points. So that seems like
it's unlikely.
Yeah, that's very unlikely.
But just in case, it's going to happen. It's going to be like, oh well, shit. I don't know.
So my vote would be that the tie would go to the higher seed. Like you reward the person for the better regular season.
Yeah,
but that doesn't have to mean anything. Because it could be a situation where I'm the higher seed, but Stokes outscored me by 600 points. So you like how every scenario I use, it's me beating Stokes.
Poor guy.
I know.
It's like January all over again.
I don't know how you would do that. Unless you, I guess what we could do is we could do something like with your bench. Like whoever has the highest scoring person on their bench, but then all of a sudden, then it's like you got to go strategize your. I don't know that anybody's going to live in a fear bunker of getting a tie.
So how about we randomize it? So we randomize it all the positions, and it's quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, defense. You randomize, and whoever had the highest score out of that position gets the win.
I mean, that's for me. Yeah, that's as good as any idea.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I was thinking is team that scored the most touchdowns. I don't know if that, but
yeah, that's another.
We're also just, maybe there's a thing out there that Costa or RVD or somebody that's in a bunch of leagues, they already have that solution. I would think that the fractional points thing would keep us pretty clean on that, but I don't know.
Yeah. What else do I have? Speaking of using your defense, your kickers, what if we just got rid of those?
I get no enjoyment whatsoever out of kickers and defense. I feel like they are so random, and I think they have such a big impact on the overall outcome. But
I'd be okay with eliminating kickers.
Yeah,
I've got the Bills defense, so I want to keep them forever. So
but yeah, so instead of we start 10 now, we just start 9, and then you get an extra position spot that you would just throw on your bench instead of Bengals defense, for example.
Yeah.
Or whoever my kicker is.
There's not a whole lot of strategy in it.
No, yeah. I think my most frequently picked up players are kickers because this guy sucks. Switch.
And, I think the pushback would be someone. I think Costa has Butker and maybe T-Mag has Bass, and those guys are going to be like, "No, wait a minute! I grabbed a kicker that was tied to one of the best quarterbacks, and I just figured I'd have an advantage there." So I mean, I could see it.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if it's something that would gain a lot of momentum. I'm not going to lose any sleep either way on it, but I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm just throwing stuff at the wall. We'll see what. When is our trade deadline?
Whatever the default. Well, yeah. This year we forgot to turn. The one commissioner. We forgot to turn it on. Boy, did we really screw that one up. It's supposed to be like whatever the default trade deadline is, but I had accidentally turned it off. So that was fun.
So
week 12 or 11 or whatever that is, whatever the default setting is.
Sounds about right. Do we want to push it back?
I like trade deadlines in Dynasty being as late as possible because I still think there's moves that can be made. And I know the fear is like, oh, you're gonna get some team that has nothing to play for and they're gonna sell all their good players, but they still have to keep an eye on the future. I'm in a league where you can trade into the playoffs. I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Another week or two, I think I think you want to get the trade deadline out there where there actually are people that feel like sellers. That's just my.
Yes, I mean, we could vote to push it back to the start of the playoffs, and if you're out of the playoffs, then I guess you're free to trade amongst your peers.
Trade deadline is week 13 right now.
And we start playoffs 15, 16, 17.
Yeah. So 2 weeks before the playoffs. So, yeah. I mean,
that's pretty late, but
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm cool with the 13th league.
Yeah.
Because it gives you 1 week where no one can do anything, and it's the last week of the season. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, without that trade deadline, I wouldn't have had Josh, whatever his name is my quarterback, not Josh Johnson, the other Josh that's always backing up, that was on multiple teams. No, the guy that played for Minnesota and also played for Tennessee, Josh Dobbs. The guy that does great, until he learns the playbook, and then he does terrible.
That's true enough.
Yeah. Ugh. All right. Well, we are about 20 minutes in. We're still got to go through rosters. Do you guys want to go through some lessons learned real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a couple, and I'll kick one around to you guys real quick. So one lesson I've learned is I said on this podcast last year, and we were looking at rosters, and you guys were like, I don't know, your team's pretty good. Like it could do some damage. And I'm just like, I just don't see the ceiling. Like I have Travis Etienne, I have James Cook. Like these guys are going to get me solid, but none of them are going to blow up. My lesson learned is fantasy football has much more become like the real NFL, where you just get in and it feels kind of random who wins. And I have a buddy who said this best to me. Fantasy football, it's skill to make the playoffs and it's luck to win a championship, because my team was not the best team in the league. I mean, my team won the championship. So I guess by definition, I was the best team, but my team was not the best team either in any metric up until the fact that the matchups went right and I won 3 playoff games. So my lesson learned is I was very apprehensive about even trading for Josh Dobbs. I'm like, why am I going to put any more assets into this team that doesn't have a chance? If you have a chance to make the playoffs, I say you go for it up until the point of being comfortable, because you just never know who's going to get hot. Or unfortunately, in Stokes' case, in my case, in another league, you never know what stacked team is just going to get cold. So that's my first lesson. You guys have any lessons you've learned so far?
Good.
That was kind of a big lesson I learned after this season. I probably could have made a trade for Mike Evans or some other receiver that would have really gotten me into the playoffs. And then once you're in, like you just said, who knows? But, I kind of spent a good portion of the season like, I think this team is good, but I'm 2-4, so maybe it's not. But then I look at the points for it, and it's like, no, this is a good team. Just the record doesn't show it yet. But I never actually picked a path. And it was just, I'll either get in or I won't. And then I'm looking back, it's like, I had a pretty good team, and that may have been my last year of real contention. Started the league with a 3-year window in mind. Last year was year 3. So if I'd stuck to the original plan, maybe I have 2. Maybe I'm back to back. Maybe I beat Stokes again.
I forgot you had Eckler too.
Oh, well, he stunk.
Yeah, but I mean, we didn't know he was going to stink. Yeah, that's just what a bummer. So Williams kind of just came in and replaced Eckler. How about you, Stokes? Any lessons?
Yeah, I mean, so I went into all of this thinking attack my window, and that's how I approach fantasy and Madden and everything, is just like I'm trying to attack my window, and that is what I feel like I've learned is that if you just continue attacking your window, you never have to pay for it, or at least I haven't had to pay for it just yet. But I know that the shoe's gonna drop, but I feel like people will keep on trading stuff, like so I can continue to attack the window. But I can also foresee in my team a time when it's going to just fall off the roof, and I'm worried about that. But I try not to think about it. But like that's still my philosophy in a general sense. Like you should just attack your window, because as Jake said, he probably could have put himself in a position to make the playoffs, and you just never know. I think we're all really saying the same things, but it's like you got this one season to do the best that you can, and you just got to try. You just got to try at it. And I think that another thing that I've learned is that there are some people that don't really want to trade. Like they want to talk about trading. They have the FOMO, and they don't really want to trade because they either value their player or players at a value that doesn't make a lot of sense, but they have sentimental value in or they see them in the eyes of their peak rather than where they are. And it's just I've learned that with a couple of my players as well, is just trying not to see like, well, in the right light, they can be this wide receiver one, this running back one, whereas like they're not actually that. And I think that a lot of us at times get caught in that haze of my player is better than he actually is.
I think there's a lot of merit to that. And the other thing that I think people have a hard time putting a value on these players because it's dynasty. Like if it's a single year league, I can, figure out that, okay, Saquon Barkley is better than, I don't know who the right example is for this, but rookie running back X. But with rookies, you, like you said, Stokes, you're always thinking about what he could be. And you don't want to be that person that trades a rookie and then he winds up just being like the RB1 of the next 10 years. And so it does get tricky. So I think people get really scared. And then it's like, whether you're checking Devi or you're checking ESPN and all the different sites and Keep Trade Cut, and you always want to be on the winning end of it. And it gets nerve wracking, but I try not to overthink it. It's like, okay, I don't want to guess on things I don't know. Like, I don't want to sit here and be like, okay, I have James Cook. I'll just use two running backs that are on my team, but like I have James Cook, Stokes has Travis Etienne. They're both rated fairly similar. I'm just going to guess in my brain that 2 years from now, the Bills are going to be a better running team than the Jaguars, or, that's where you can get yourself in a mental pretzel. I'd rather be like, okay, I need a quarterback. I am very heavy at wide receiver. I'm going to do this. Or like what Stokes does. I have a team that can win right now. I don't mind taking on somebody who maybe only has a year or two left, giving up a future asset. In that regard, though, I will say one lesson I've learned is if your team's not a contender, absolutely err on the side of getting rid of the old guy. Even if it's a situation where it's like Saquon Barkley, and let's say you would have traded him last year, and I know he's on Nino's team, and Nino wasn't necessarily a team that needs to rebuild. He didn't make the playoffs, but now you're like, you'd be kicking yourself because, oh man, he goes to Philly, they're going to run he might get 2,000 yards. But even that, what's he going to do? Do it for another 2 years? Like, get the picks, stockpile the picks. The floor of giving up on the old guy when your team is not ready to win is very safe. Because if you get a couple of first round picks for Saquon Barkley, yes, Saquon could win the league next year for somebody, but you still have those picks. The floor of the other side of it, where you're the team taking on the Saquon Barkley, is much scarier. That's the side that Stokes has been on, and he's done very well on that side. But you could absolutely see a scary scenario where you trade for a Saquon Barkley, and then all of a sudden he has what happened to Nick Chubb last year, and his career's over at the blink of an eye, and you're out 2 first-round picks, and you're like, well, now what do I do? So I think that's a little tricky too. One more lesson I have real quick. I think the last 2 drafts I did, both in this league and the other league, I greatly overvalued situation over the player. So like for the podcast, Luca and I do, we do a lot of rookie work, and Stoke does the podcast with us too. I did not like Treylon Burks at all as a prospect. I didn't really like Quentin Johnson as a prospect, but the situations they went to, Treylon Burks going to Tennessee, they had just traded AJ Brown. They had nobody else to throw to. Quentin Johnson going to team up with Justin Herbert. And it's like, oh man, he has a chance to be Justin Herbert's number 1 for the next 10 years. Like, ooh la la. I like Jordan Addison much better. I like Zay Flowers much better as a prospect. I'm trying to remember Treylon Burks. It was Garrett Wilson I liked better as a prospect, but their quarterback situation was Zach Wilson. Like, what am I going to get excited about that for? My lesson learned is go with the talented player and don't go with like the ideal landing spot right now, because I feel like I've gambled on in 2 different leagues, 2 different players that I did not like as rookies. And I gambled on their spot, and they ended up being the players I kind of projected them to be in the NFL, which makes me feel like double dumb.
So you're saying do what Stokes and I do and don't have a pick in the first round.
Yes. Don't have a pick in the first round. But like, yeah, like I was like, I cooled on Jordan Addison because I was like, who knows what's going to happen with Kirk Cousins, which now we're kind of there. And no matter what happens, he's never going to be the number 1 target in that offense because Justin Jefferson is a freak show. But what I love Jordan. I just overthought it. Like, it's the NFL. It's 2023. Wide receivers on offenses can have multiple guys produce, and lesson learned.
Yeah, I think that is it's very astute because you know we're all trying to project. Like, all we're trying to do is when we're drafting is we're trying to project like what this person is going to be because I'm potentially tied to this person for the entirety of the career. So like I could be in a position where I took this guy. I have him for every snap for the entirety of his career in the NFL, and sometimes we think about the how they're going to look at that position going forward, or where they are at the beginning of it. And like I haven't like aside from the first draft, I haven't had like a first or second. I think I've only had like third, fourth round picks since then. So I've been dealing with trying to project like with like third, fourth string guys. And when I did have first round picks, I took like Damian Pierce, Christian Watson, and I took Sky Moore. I thought Sky Moore was going to be good, and he has been really, really bad. So it's a crapshoot as always, as it is in any sort of draft, because it's you don't know necessarily how they're going to fit whatever that is, whether it's team wise or how they fit as a player. All you can do is, I think you should just err on the side of drafting players that you think are going to be just good NFL players, and forget what the situation is. So I think I watch this guy. I think he's going to be good as an NFL player, and he's like and just hope that he is going to fit whatever the scheme is, just because he's a good player.
Any final lessons learned before we start diving into some of these rosters?
I don't think so.
Don't have the best team in the league. Magic, is that the lesson you learned?
My team should have been so good. Don't just like you guys are saying, kind of just know where you are. There are maybe 4 contenders, and then you kind of have to figure out if you're a middle team. Am I a middle team? Am I a contender that can actually go for it, or should I be selling off? And finding the right time to either sell or buy is hard, but a key component.
Wimby on the Spurs looks like me playing against my kids. It is insane to watch him dunk. He doesn't even leave his feet to dunk. It is insane. I am mesmerized every time I watch him play. Totally
I hope he
off
stays
topic.
healthy.
I do too. In the NBA, do they bulk up? I mean, I assume they have to at some point, but I know it's like a cardio sport. But
I mean, like Kevin Durant never like bulked up.
Yeah,
he's just stronger, but he's not bulky.
Yeah. Anyway, I have a little bit of interest in this game tonight. I took the Spurs money line because they were home underdogs. Sorry, K-Will, but your Rockets are doing just fine, and K-Will's not even listening because he's not in this league. All right, let's go look at some teams, shall we? And first name on the list is my team. We can go through it real quick. So some of these teams we're going to have to kind of go down to the bench too, because like in my case, Amari Cooper's not showing up in my top because he was not healthy for championship week. So we'll kind of see things. I wish there was an easier way to see it than just like who's in the lineup right now. But the biggest glaring need on my team right now is quarterback. I feel really good about my running back situation with Cook, Gibbs, and ETN. All 3 of those guys are locked in for a couple more years, the clear RB1s in their situations. Gibbs a little dicey with Montgomery, but boy, he gets the ball enough. I'm happy with that. CeeDee Lamb became a wide receiver 1 last year, like a high-end wide receiver 1. DK Metcalf has kind of fallen off more in that like mid-level wide receiver 2. And that's about where Amari Cooper is. Maybe on his better days, he can be like a low-end wide receiver 1. And then Dallas Goedert's just kind of a low-end tight end 1. But, the team's good enough to win with. And I have some guys down here that I think could be interesting this year. I think Ty Chandler has a chance to be interesting, although them signing Aaron Jones kind of hurts that. And I do like the 2 Packers tight ends I have in Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. I do think that one of those guys has a chance to really kind of matter. Otherwise, my team lacks a little bit of depth, which I think a lot of teams do. And I got to figure out what to do about a quarterback, because right now I think I'm just staring it right in the face of having to draft one at 14 and hoping that guy turns out to be fantasy relevant year 1. Any thoughts, Magic or Stokes, on the champions team?
I mean, there's still the Deshaun Watson factor. I mean, he still could be decent,
He's gone.
right?
Not as a
Oh,
person.
you traded him?
I traded Deshaun Watson for Tucker Kraft. No, Luke Musgrave. And what did I get for Deshaun
Or I'll
Watson?
tell you, it was Deshaun Watson and Daniel Bellinger for Luke Musgrave and
Oh my
Jaron
bad.
Hall.
Oh,
Jaron Hall. Okay, so the reason
me.
for that trade was I was tired of Deshaun Watson, and he was already out for the year, and I basically wanted to cash out the stock, not believing he was going to come back. And Nino offered me a tight end that I thought had he was a rookie tight end that had been doing well. He got hurt right after the trade, by the way. And so, just wanted to get rid of him. At that point in time, Deshaun Watson wasn't going to help me. I just thought it was okay, he's been terrible. Now he's hurt. This is a dead stock. Just give me anything. And Nino swooped in and was like, I'll give you anything. Not much, but it's something. And I took it. So.
Yeah. All right. So never mind. So I think at 14, I mean, there's going to be 4 or 5 quarterbacks drafted in the first round this season in the NFL draft, and most teams are more or less set at quarterback. So I would imagine I think the difference with last year was Anthony Richardson because of where he was drafted. He was drafted higher than probably he would have been if it was a normal type of draft. So I think that you'll probably have maybe the first 2 quarterbacks, maybe one quarterback will be gone by the time your pick comes. So you'll have a quarterback that is looking at a starting position. It's just a matter of whether you choose the right one. But the way that it seems that this league is set up, I would expect that you're going to be you're going to be all right at quarterback, and you have enough of the ancillary pieces that you're not going to need a guy that's going to get you 24 points a game. You're just going to need a guy that is not going to give you 8 points a game. And I think that no matter who you're going to pick, they're not going to be Bryce Young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. And we obviously have after the draft to talk about it. And, after the draft, before our rookie draft, will be a tricky show because how many of us are really going to want to get on here and give our honest opinions of these guys, because we're going to want to keep our strategy to ourselves. But you just look at the draft order. If Caleb Williams could be the best quarterback in the draft, but going to the Bears, DJ Moore had a good year, but holy cow, the Bears are not exactly stocked with weapons. And then if Drake May goes to the Commanders, I like that quite a bit more. You're talking about, McLaurin, they did lose Samuel, but then they have Dotson. He's okay. But you could look down the list a little bit further. And what if, who's another team with a lot of weapons? There's not really a good landing spot now that Atlanta got Kirk Cousins. I guess Minnesota's a good landing spot. Get the quarterback that's going to go throw to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson. And it's not like they have a lot of competition right now. So I think that'll be tough to navigate. And like Stokes said, there's not going to be, I don't believe, that Anthony Richardson that comes in with just a ridiculous floor of rushing upside where you feel like even if he struggles to pick the game up in passing, he's still going to be able to be a solid starter running the ball. Let's go on to the next team here. That's Costa's team. And he went very young in the rookie draft. And not the rookie draft, the startup draft. And his team looks very, very good. This will be the first time we get to talk about some players that have moved. We have Tua at quarterback. His other quarterbacks are Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. I do like that. Jimmy G will have a new home. We don't know where. Jameis Winston has found his way to Cleveland as a backup. And then we have Jonathan Taylor and Aaron Jones. I think both of those guys have had productive free agency weeks. Zach Moss is gone. He is now a Cleveland Brown. And Aaron Jones, I think probably the best case scenario was staying in Green Bay without A.J. Dillon. But the second they signed Josh Jacobs, getting Aaron Jones out of Green Bay and landing on a team with Minnesota that really has no direct competition, that's a pretty good 1-2 punch for Costa, who also has Gus Edwards, who wound up with the Chargers. And there's not a lot of competition there with Eckler going to Washington. So I think Costa has a real chance to have 2 very good running backs in Jones and Taylor, at least from a volume standpoint, for for Jones if he can stay healthy, and then maybe a sneaky one in Edwards.
Yeah, I mean his team is built very well. He's made some shrewd moves, and he's done very well with the way he's kept or drafted certain players. Like the only question mark I would have for the way his team is built right now is tight end. Like and Pitts, like maybe he's now going to be unlocked with Kirk Cousins, and I think that one of the things that can get in Costa's way potentially week to week is whether he's going to start Tua or Kirk Cousins, because I think they're both going to be every week right around the same ranking level, because they're probably going to be some level of matchup proof just because of the way they both play. So I think he'll be in situations where 1 week he's going to go with Tua, and then Kirk's going to outscore him, and then next week he goes with Kirk, and so on and so forth. But but his skill positions, running backs, wide receivers, like he's in really good position, and even some of his depth, they have a path to meaningful playing time. Like you just Charbonnet, Khalil Herbert, like Naheem Hines, like he has a role as an offensive player. So there are so many different players that he's got out there that you can see that could be important. That he's got a really good roster.
What do you think about this squad, Magic? If you were Costa, I mean, to me, this would be an easy squad to manage. I wouldn't do a whole lot. I would do the rookie draft and let the chips fall where they may in the regular season. What would you do with this squad?
Yeah, I mean, I think we came into last year saying, this looks like a pretty strong team, and it still looks like a pretty strong team. I'd have some worry about Aaron Jones because, I don't know, something about Aaron Jones feels like he shows up for like 4 games, but those 4 that he shows up are like, cool, you're winning your week. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you ride that roller coaster, and Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he had the one good year. I don't know. Maybe this team is sneaky thin.
You know what I would be tempted to do if I was Costa? I'd be tempted to package like Tua and Charbonnet, or Cousins and Charbonnet, or maybe Tua and I would try. I think my goal would be get really aggressive and get like a game-changing quarterback if you can get one. Whether it's trying to get Noah to come off of Lamar since Anthony Richardson's coming back, maybe even if you have to spend your first round pick, because I do feel like the one thing that could hold Costa's team back is the fact that when he goes up against a Stokes or an RVD, those guys have 40-point upside out of their quarterbacks. I had Tua in another league last year. The Dolphins scored a ton of points, and it was almost never Tua getting 40 fantasy points. Yeah. So I think that would be maybe my strategy if I was Costa. T-Mag, Joey B and the boys. We have Joe Burrow coming off of an injury. Mostert and Montgomery both kind of got outshined by some rookies last year. Mostert didn't get outshined. He had a fantastic year, but I think there's some concern about what's going to happen with A-Chain going forward. Tyler Boyd is currently a free agent. Jerry Jeudy got traded to Cleveland. Justin Jefferson has no quarterback. I think this has been a tough offseason for T-Mag's team. Mac Jones got traded. He does have Geno Smith, I guess. The Nick Chubb thing is a disaster. Does have Kenneth Walker. Gabe Davis is in Jacksonville now, but they're still talking about potentially bringing back, what's his face? Calvin Ridley. And it's like you still have Kirk, you still have Ingram. So Gabe Davis, Stokes, and I could tell you is not a target hog. I don't know, Magic. I'm not liking, despite the fact that he's getting Joe Burrow back, I would say that like stocks are down on a lot of these guys. Yeah,
this team, I mean, it's got guys that you look at, man. This was a really good 2023 season. I mean, you've got RB2 overall or whatever Mostert finished at. Montgomery was top 10. You got Justin Jefferson, who's receiver 1. And yet, you go through the roster and it's like, yeah, I could see how this guy missed the playoffs. I don't know what you do here. You sell, obviously. You sell Mostert. I mean, he's 39. You try to get a tight end. You try to get young. Try to get some draft picks.
I like how you just say he's 39. You don't fact check it. You're just like, he's 39.
Just let it go.
Nobody's listening.
Yeah, I mean, keep Burrow, keep Jefferson, and I mean the rest of these pieces. I mean, Yeah.
Where's he drafted, or did he trade his first?
Looks like he has the 8th spot. Let's go to the draft order if we can figure out how to do that.
Oh yeah, I have a pick this year. Let's go to the draft order.
Okay, draft settings.
That's not it.
It's got to be somewhere, right? That's draft order, but
Oh wait, click out of here.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. And then just on the left of league.
Oh, draft. Right.
Draft room.
Draft room. Okay, there it is. This will help. Joey B and the boys. He does not have a first. Fish has his first.
Okay.
Oh,
Hate to see it.
Boy.
So that just got worse. So listen, someone out there who thinks they're a contender could buy into Raheem Mostert. You know, Devon Achane is a year older, so he'll take some of the load off the old guy. So he only comes in for 20 touchdowns again, no risk of injury. Sell him.
Only 20 touchdowns.
Yeah,
I mean, the way his team is set up, I know he's a Bengals fan, but he could probably sell Mr. Burrow to Updog over here and get some picks back in his wheelhouse. That's I did not know he didn't have a first. I'm glad we're going to be referencing this. Let's see. Is anybody else we talked about? Stokes, we didn't talk about you yet. Everybody else is good. Okay, there's the top of the draft right there. Yeah, tough row to hoe there for T-Mag.
I know about hoes.
Yeah, I think it'd be very, very unlikely that he would trade Burrow just because of his fandom and the name of his squad. So I think I'd be really surprised. I think it'd be more likely for him to trade Justin Jefferson, just because I don't think he's not going to have any sort of faith in what to expect from a guy like Nick Chubb or Jerry Jeudy or Mostert going into the next season. He'll have to be in it to figure out or decide whether he's going to be a buyer or a seller. But I could see it being a situation where he's trying to either sell Chubb or before, like once we get like some sort of reports that he's ready for practice or whatever, and he tries to trade him off. But he was trying to trade Mostert at the trade deadline this season. So I think he should continue to try and trade Mostert. I feel like Montgomery, he's probably solid where he is in that offense. Just the way the offense moves the ball, and his role is pretty solidified. But after Justin Jefferson, I mean, I'd be a little bit concerned out of his wide receivers, and then without that first round pick, it's going to be difficult for him to replenish and feel comfortable about what's going to happen next season. Because I don't think his team was just a Joe Burrow and a Nick Chubb away from being a contender.
Yeah. Do you think Nick Chubb's done?
I hope not. I love the way he plays, so I sincerely hope not. But he came back from some serious injuries, in college as well. So I think that he has that sort of determination and just the way he's built as a player. I don't want to think that way, but I mean it's always a possibility.
I did not realize he was 28. And I did not realize Todd Gurley's only 29. So
yes, that is craziness.
Boy, is the world weird. All right, Spanish for the Nino. Stokes, you'll enjoy dancing on his grave.
Yeah,
as he did not make the playoffs.
If we end up picking opponents in the playoffs, I would absolutely choose Nino.
No matter what his team looks like.
Man, you can't pick someone if they don't make it.
Oh yeah, that's true. So I've got to hope he makes the playoffs so I can come in his dreams.
So Nino has 2 first-round picks. He has his own. He has Lara's. I think I can see this from his page. And he has an extra second-round pick, too. So he is pick rich. And now let's go look at his team. So Nino had the right idea. He did just what Magic said. He's like, I'm not going to stay in the middle. I'm not content to just make the playoffs and lose right away. Let me get out of here and see what I can do. So his quarterback is Jared Goff. He also has Deshaun Watson, if that can become something. And as long as Daniel Jones is playing, he has some rushing upside. Saquon Barkley should be very, very good in Philadelphia. I do worry about him losing some rushing touchdowns to Hurts, but holy cow, he could go for 2,000 yards in that offense. Stevenson now has some competition from Antonio Gibson. And then you have DeAndre Hopkins, Samuel McLaurin. The receivers don't do a ton for me. Is there anybody else down there? Reed is very good in Green Bay, and he gets the ball a lot. I think that's a good player for him. Trey McBride, I think, is going to be a top 4 to 5 fantasy tight end like for the next little while. Very good player. I like this team. I don't know why Wilson's in his lineup. Must have just been a weird week. Got AJ Dillon. We'll see where he winds up. I have a sneaky suspicion he could be on the Bills' radar. Zach Moss right now looks like RB1 in Cincinnati, so that could be something. Stokes, say something nice about Nino.
So despite him making trades for a lot of picks, his team doesn't look as bad as some of the other teams. So he's still got some pieces that are it could be like slate breakers. Like Devo saying he is the definition of a slate breaker. Like he is one of those guys that he can have 2 catches for 20 yards, or he can have 10 catches for 130 and then another 40 rushing and 4 touchdowns. Like that's entirely possible within the realm of possibilities. DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know what to expect from him in Tennessee's offense, whether it's Levis still throwing in the ball. I think Goff is a good quarterback for fantasy purposes. And then, as you mentioned, Saquon Barkley, he could be really, really important going into the season. So despite him having those picks and everything, his team is not as bad as I would hope it to be after seeing what he has pick-wise.
We're going to move it along a little bit because we are I say move it along, then I start doing bump stuff. We have been going 51 minutes. We want to try to get out of here about the hour mark. So we're going to go on to the next team here. And Magic, you get a chance to talk about RVD. He rage benched all of his players, but this actually makes it much easier for us to dissect his roster. So we appreciate you, RVD. Quarterback situation, Jalen Hurts, very, very strong. Running backs, boy, his running backs didn't do him any favors when he started the league off, and he had DeAndre Swift and Najee Harris and Javonte Williams, and they've all just kind of gone in different directions. Swift could be interesting in Chicago. I still like Roshan Johnson a lot. We'll see what happens there. RVD has a lot of question marks in his running back situation, although Najee Harris came on very strong at the end of last year, and he still has Pacheco. So that's actually pretty good. Wide receiver, Mike Evans, very, very good. One of the best in the league. Ayuk really came on last year. Lockett is kind of a steady Eddie. He also has Wilson and Puka Nakua. Okay, RVD, shut up. And then he has Sam Laporta. Okay, well, we get it, RVD. We get it. Your team is good. Magic, you want to just echo what I said? His team is good?
Concur. I think he got 2 votes for most likely champion at some point last season, and I still don't really understand how he lost, but he's probably going to be my pick going into next season again.
I think RBD's team is a lot like my team in a different league where the team is championship ready and has no championships to show for it. And the biggest thing I would tell him is just trust the process. Like, you're doing everything right. Your team is ready to win. You can't control what they do on a week-to-week basis, but don't go out there and make a panic trade because you're feeling like you need to shake it up. Like, this team is ready to win. And holy cow, if Aaron Rodgers had stayed healthy, like, there's another like wide receiver 1 potentially. So I like this team a lot.
That team's nasty.
He has 3 defenses though. Matt Gay was actually Costa's nickname in high school. Let's see here. Sorry, I've been wanting to make that joke for a long time, and it's not even appropriate now that it's 2024. Let's see. It feels so good. The number 1 pick himself.
Let's go.
Oh boy, and even his quarterback is a backup now. JD, Justin Fields, Pierre Strong, Chris Evans, DJ Moore, Nico Collins. He did trade a high second for Nico Collins. That ended up being a very good move. You know what, Stokes? I'm going to give JD some credit. His team had some holes, and it still has some holes. Like, this is not a great team, but he's done a good job of rebuilding his wide receiver group. Going forward, having Rashee Rice, Nico Collins, and DJ Moore, that could be one of the stronger wide receiver cores in the league, especially when you factor in age.
Yeah, absolutely. That's That's a young grouper there, and even DJ Moore is relatively young for having a lot of experience in the NFL. But yeah, he's got some work to do at the other skill positions, and of course quarterback. I know that he probably, I'm pretty sure he traded for Justin Fields, right? And he went into that um, thinking that, hey, Justin Fields is going to be a QB. He's going to be a QB1, and he's going to play like that because of his rushing floor. And now it just doesn't look like that anymore. Despite, I don't think Justin Fields did enough to not garner another opportunity to be a quarterback. So I think he's going to get another opportunity, but we just don't know where that is just yet. But his running back situation is really, really, really bad. And it may be another season where he's just bad again, and that's okay. And he's just going to have to continue to build up that core.
I want to look at where he's at on the draft. Magic, if you have any thoughts on JD, feel free to.
He doesn't have a second or a third.
That's tough.
Oh, no.
I think
The second he flipped for Nico Collins, so I think he's coming out looking good. I mean, he's got CJ Stroud's number one receiver.
maybe Tank Dell might have something to say about that.
That's true. Tank Dell looks. I forgot. I mean, the Texans are loading up. They got Daniil Hunter today. Anyway,
I mean, it's listen. He's got the number one pick for a reason, but like you guys said, I mean, his starting three receivers are like good, solid, at worst. Like Rashee Rice, I think is his worst option, and he is solid. So that's a really good starting point. I mean, if he had a second, he could get himself a quarterback in this draft, but I mean, he doesn't, so we'll just move on from that. But I mean, I think the number one prospect is Marvin Harrison, but he's already got receivers. Maybe he should look to trade 1-1, just move down a couple of picks, like restock the coffers.
Yeah,
and
Coffers?
Coffers. It's coffers.
Okay.
And like
he might be able to get a couple of ones from Nino.
Yeah,
or
there you go.
a couple ones and more from Nino if he's looking
to move down to
up.
7. I mean, like don't look at it as he's going to compete next year. Look at it as he's going to compete in 2 years.
I think that's the best point because you look at his roster and the glaring need is he needs a running back, but running backs have the shortest shelf life of any of these players you're drafting. You draft a quarterback like CJ Stroud should be the Texans quarterback for the next 15 years. These wide receivers come in, they play for 10 to 12 years if they're very, very good, 15 years even. But like these running backs, even the best ones, they can be out of the league in 5 years. So I don't know that JD should take a chance, especially in a running back draft that isn't loaded. There's no Bijan Robinson this year. I don't know that JD should pick 1-1 unless he just has a long-term view in mind and takes Harrison. I would not take Caleb Williams, not the way the scoring in this league works. So I'm with you. If you can find somebody, now I wouldn't give it away. I wouldn't give it to Nino for 1-7 and 1-12. Nino's gonna have to sweeten the pot quite a bit because Marvin Harrison is a generational talent. But I would certainly be open to offers and putting that thing on the trade block right now. And the guy sitting there at 3 is always willing to make a splash. And Flip, I think, has the ability to load him up a little bit. So we shall see. I think JD needs to trade for not only picks, but maybe some players that can help him out too. Let's keep it moving. Who did we just do? We just did JD. We're going to move down to pennies on the dollar. That's you, Magic. Let's talk about your squad. What is the mindset as you have McCaffrey, Kyron Williams, Austin Eckler? He's in Washington right now. None of your other running backs. I guess Josh Kelly has a chance to be the guy now in Los Angeles. They did bring in Gus Edwards. Don't see a ton on your bench as far as receivers go. Isaiah Likely is a good player if Mark Andrews gets hurt.
Michael Pittman's on that bench.
Michael Pittman is on that bench, and they kept him. Wow, your team should have won. And then now you have the new Carolina number 1 receiver in Deontay Johnson.
Yeah. The main thing that I need to get settled on is a new team name because Rashad Penny is not on the team anymore. And I don't know what to do about this. I don't know. I think this is a good team. So, and this is the first time I'm going to have a first round draft pick. So I'm not really sure what to do. Just kind of let the players fall to me. I'm always happy to take a receiver, but if a running back falls to me, you can't have enough running backs. Like if I think I'm in a contending window, I could definitely use someone other than nobody. So
I mean, you don't know what the situation is going to be. What like with T Higgins, whether his request for a trade is going to continue, and if that means he's willing to sit out for it. So it could be a thing where you end up missing one of your wide receivers if T Higgins sits. So maybe wide receiver is the path to look at initially, but as you said, running back is you can't have enough of those because someone's always going to be willing to look for one. Someone's like they get injured very frequently, and then you never know who's just going to fall off. Like I don't expect for Christian McCaffrey to have any sort of fall off. Kyron Williams appears to be easy RB1, but you never know. Like Austin Eckler, there is a path that I can see where he is not the RB1 that he has been. So maybe you have to be in maybe you have to watch out and you have a running back ready for him. But like it's the team itself. I mean, I like it. I mean, and you've got Dak Prescott and Jordan Love right behind him. So like, that quarterback position is good to go. Tight end, maybe I don't know I don't think Brock Bowers will fall to you, but if you did, that'd be nice.
I'm not taking a tight end in the first round.
You wouldn't? Brock Bowers is legit. Have you watched him?
No.
Dude.
I barely watch NFL. You think I'm watching
Brock Bowers is legit. I'm telling you, like he is a nasty tight. He's gonna be drafted in top 5, top 6 this year.
You know what Magic's here? Magic's like they said the same thing about Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Look how that's worked out, man. Austin couldn't give that guy away.
That's I mean, Brock Bowers, he did play for a really good team too, and he oftentimes looked like the best player on that team.
Oh yeah, like they had a tight end go early last year, Washington, and they were still like he's not even the best tight end on the team this year. It's Brock Bowers. So I'm with you. I think Brock Bowers will be a first round pick in our league. I don't know if Magic will do it with Kelsey on the team. You need to trade for DeAndre Swift so you can have Kelsey and Swift.
Hey,
boom. All right, next Bailey, Trevor Lawrence, Brian Robinson, Joe Mixon, the new starting running back of Houston. Love that landing spot for him, by the way. Jameson Williams, George Pickens, Khalil Shakir. Bailey was a tanker, so I think his best players are going to be on his bench. Dameon Pierce had a good start to his career and then got bitten by Devin Singletary. Maybe not his best players on the bench. Christian Watson is interesting. Quickly Stokes, I see this team as good tight end, okay quarterback, decent running backs, okay receivers, nothing that gets me overly excited. Bailey needs to have himself a good draft. And while you're talking, I'm going to see what he's got in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty similarly. He was trying to, he's trying to come off Mixon towards the end of the season, and I think he's understanding of where he is. That he doesn't have a lot of top end players, so he's going to have to mishmash in order to get the 120 points you're going to need and to be a contender weekly. So I don't think he sees his team in that light because I don't think Trevor Lawrence took the types of leaps one would expect as a quarterback, and I don't know whether that's in him. So we'll see as far as that goes, but I don't think he has a top end running back. I don't think he has a top end wide receiver. So, but he's got a good tight end as you mentioned. But yeah, I don't really see his team as one of the ones that are gonna make a lot of noise.
Now, Magic, he does have the second overall pick and another first round pick later in the first round. I just had it up. I don't want to. I got lost here somewhere.
He has RVDs at pick 11.
So I don't know if that would be enough to entice JD to come off of pick 1, pick 2, and pick 11. But I think Bailey could at least get the conversation started, which is more than most people could say. If like we're already putting pick 1 on the block for JD, even though he hasn't said it's on the block, but I think Bailey should consider that.
Quick thing. I think our rookie draft is set up to snake.
Oh, okay. Good call. Let's go ahead and fix that real quick.
Yeah. But also for Bailey, I clicked on the little blurb for his TJ Hawkinson. says he may miss the first season of 2024. So who is his best player come September? Is it
Wait, what did you say about Bailey? I'm sorry.
TJ Hawkinson may miss the first month of the 2024 season. So
Oh,
who is Bailey's best player in September?
funny story. Bailey could have had a second round pick, but he wouldn't trade me Sam Howell. His best player is, his receivers are okay on the bench. Mike Williams, Christian Kirk, and Christian Watson. I think they all are like low end wide receiver threes. Good. Joe Mixon in Houston, I think, has a real chance.
Having Kirk and Lawrence is a solid stack.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think Joe Mixon in Houston has like RB1 upside if he's healthy, because they're going to score a ton of points.
Okay. Just ask.
But I'm not like, I would not want this to be my roster. That sounded really arrogant. I want this to be my roster. But no, I think he's got some work to do. But luckily for him, he has plenty of draft picks to get it done. Vane. Baker Mayfield, Isaiah Spiller, he was tanking. Cordell Patterson, Smith, Samuel, Olave, none of these guys. Okay, here's the real players. Oh, he's got CJ Stroud and Kyler Murray. This is a guy that should be on the phone with me trying to get, he won't trade Stroud, but like send Kyler Murray to me. But he's a hard person to trade with in my experience, like a very hard person to trade with. Let's see, Hollywood Brown, Noah Fant. I don't see a ton on his bench that really gets me excited. Oh, Josh Jacobs, the new RB1 in Green Bay. That should be just fine. But yeah, otherwise, not a ton. And I don't say this as somebody because I need a running back, but he also has Baker Mayfield. Like, he needs to get rid of some of these quarterbacks and fill out the rest of his roster. What do you think, Stokes?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he needs a running back. He's got Josh Jacobs, but after that, I liked Carlos Rodriguez. I drafted him, and then I traded him to Vane for Derrick Henry. So I know he's got at least an extra pick. So whether he uses those picks to stock up on running backs because he's got wide receivers that he could probably depend upon, just to take lottery picks at running back. But I definitely think that he should not go into the season with 3 starting quarterbacks on his roster. That's just I don't think that's a logical way to do it, especially when you have a top end quarterback like CJ Stroud. Like there shouldn't be many scenarios where you're going to bench him, so that you shouldn't have multiple other starting quarterbacks. So like trading Kyler Murray would make a lot of sense because it is very likely that the Cardinals are going to draft players that are going to work well with Kyler Murray. So I think he would get the most out of trading Murray because I don't think Mayfield would give him as much of a return. So trading one of those guys for a running back or trading one of those guys for picks, whatever the case may be, he's got to do something about his running back room. I do like Josh Jacobs though, but he's got a good quarterback room that he needs to take care of.
And for having such a down roster, he doesn't trade a lot. He has all of his picks. And he does have an extra second, but I don't see his name littered in here. Like when I look at Flip and I see Flip all over this map on the second round, Flip, like Flip's doing what Flip does.
Who they want? Flip.
I don't know. I think he needs to be a little less picky when it comes to trading. That's just my read on the situation, but you do whatever you want to do.
Why would he trade?
Flip has Brock Purdy, Breece Hall, Zamir White, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I expect that to be just fine. Cooper Kupp, that really fell off. Zay Flowers, that looks pretty good. Dalton Kincaid looks pretty good. DJ Chark, Roshan Johnson, I like. Mims, I think, has a chance to be kind of like a hit or miss kind of player, like a high ADOT. 1 week he's really good, 1 week he's not involved at all kind of player. You know what? Magic, this is the kind of team that to me, I like Breece Hall, I like Njigba, I like Zay Flowers, I like Kincaid, but this is the kind of team that looks like it should have 2 first-round picks and 5 second-round picks.
Yeah, I mean, you scroll down to his draft capital, and it's 1.03, 2.01, 2.02, 2.03, 2.08, 2.10, 2.12, 3.01. Yeah, I think if he hits on half of his picks, he's a playoff team. Like his roster already has like whatever it is that trees have, and then he just needs some branches, that a trunk, a base.
Whatever.
Wow. And you're the smart one. We'd all understand if I was the one that said that.
No one talks about what pregnancy does to the dads. I get tired too.
That is real. That is real. And guess what? The women don't want to hear that.
No, they don't.
Nope.
That's why I got to say it while she's asleep.
Yes.
So he has the first 3 picks of the second round. I think this is going to be probably the most important draft. It's going to be an inflection point of his entirety of building his team, because this is going to be so many picks, so many different players that he's going to have to try and look at and see what they're going to be for his team. I think he should do so much draft prep for this, because this is going to be there's what his team was before this and his team after this, because this is going to be the most important, I think, moment for him, because if he hits, as Jake said, if he hits on half of these, he's a playoff team. But if he hits on more than half of these, he could do a lot of damage with what he does here.
Sorry. So
no, go ahead.
We have 5 bench spots because it's the off season. He currently has 2 people in injured reserve that are not eligible to be injured reserve because no one is hurt in the off season. The taxi squad, they might make him kick off too. So he might have 1 bench spot for 9 rookie picks in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, he's gonna have to drop a bunch of dudes.
I mean, I can.
They might not let him
drop, though.
Like Sleeper may not just let him make action because of their roster constrictions. So I just want to point that out. But also, with all the picks he has, what he really needs, I think, are playmaker receivers. He's got a lot of running backs. I think his starting 2 are good, and maybe he has 1 or 2 that can hit on the bench. But this is a rookie draft that is heavy on receiver and not on running back. So to agree with Stokes, this could be the draft that sets Flip up for the point where this isn't fun anymore, because Flip is always in the way of everyone else. And I think we need to just make this a super flex league and completely change what we've been doing for the last 8 years.
Right. It could. I will say one thing I did notice is he does not have a first in 2025. So that even puts more emphasis. That's right. You got the future one there. The other thing I like about what Flip has here is he's got stock in players that were rookies last year that you don't look at right now and think, oh, they're going to win you the league. But JSN, Zay Flowers, even Roshan Johnson to an extent. I do like Marvin Mims. There's players there, Kincaid, that I don't think it would shock us if those guys become a higher end of their position groups. Let's move on to Nephew. Nephew has the best quarterback situation in the league. He has Anthony Richardson and Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson. James Conner is just never going to die off of his roster. He has Tajay Spears, who I guess is now the RB1 in Tennessee, unless I missed something.
They got Pollard.
Oh, that's right. That's not good. Not good for Spears, I should say. AJ Brown and St. Brown, that's really good. I don't know why I said that's I have a stuttering problem now. Kendrick Bourne, he got re-upped to actually a decent sized deal in New England. Cole Kmet, they signed a tight end that is going to bump him. Who did they get? They got Everett. Yeah. He's going to be outranked by Everett, I would think. Don't see a lot here that I'd be excited about. Mike Gesicki, I always get excited about Gesicki and he never comes through, but he's now the starting tight end in Cincinnati. Maybe if T. Higgins goes, no, let's not going to go down that road. Noah needs to trade one of his quarterbacks, but I don't think his roster is terrible, but he needs a running back. He needs a running back because AJ Brown and St. Brown both have the ability to get 40 points any given week, but you can't live like that. Same thing with Lamar. These are 3 slate breakers, but you got to fill out the rest of your roster. It's almost like the real life Buffalo Bills that put way too much on Josh Allen's plate. Somebody else has to start carrying some weight on this roster. And if Noah could just get solid, his team could go from borderline playoff team to really scary contender. Any quick thoughts on Noah's team?
Yeah, he needs a running back. If it were me, I probably wouldn't want to live with Cole Kmet as my starting tight end, and I would look for an upgrade out there. But outside of the top few tight ends, like they're like a lot of them are interchangeable after that. So, like, do you really want to go out and try and trade for a tight end and giving up an asset that where your tight ends are, as I said, interchangeable? So, that's where it gets a little bit tricky in that regard. But I think like if he'd be one that I think if Brock Bowers felt him, he might take.
I was just looking at that. I was like, he has a 9th and the 13th pick. It might be a little late for Bowers, but you just never know how these drafts are going to go. That's right in the wheelhouse, and he absolutely can make that happen. I need Anthony Edwards to hit a 3-point shot at some point, or he's going to kill my parlay. Magic, I will give you the honor of breaking down Stokes' team here. Joshua Allen, the new running back in Baltimore, Derrick Henry. The new starting running back for the Giants, Devin Singletary. Stokes, you've done really well with free agency in your running backs. We still don't know where Zeke Elliott's going to go. Yeah. And boy, if you could look into like Zeke Elliott going to Buffalo, where he could be like the goal line back in a high octane offense, that'd be kind of fun. You do have Stafford backing up Allen. You picked up Jaron Hall just to try to screw me in the playoffs and got bad karma for it. Madison is a free agent. Keenan Allen is still a thing.
Yeah, have Dalvin Cook too.
Dalvin, yeah, sure do. Let's see. Sky Moore, Michael Thomas could potentially, probably not, but Keenan Allen's not. Keenan Allen could be very good, but your running back situation, I think, has improved greatly since the offseason started. Yeah. I know I said Magic was going to break it down, but then I just totally kicked it to you. So
yeah, I mean, you guys talk amongst yourself. Like seeing Derrick Henry go to the Ravens, I was incredibly happy with. Like he's not going to need to be the guy that is going to carry the ball 30 times a game, and he's going to have another threat that's potentially handing the ball. So I think he's going to be really good in this offense. And as Motor Singletary, he was good with the Texans last year, and I think that he's going to be at least decent with the Giants again this year. So like my team isn't really built for my running back. It's for Josh Allen and then my 3 wide receivers to continue to do what they do, play like wide receiver ones, and then hope that the running backs don't kill me. That's essentially what I'm built on, and then just hope that George Kittle has a good week.
And you need the Allen Diggs stack to not completely fall off in the playoffs like it has the last 2 years.
Yeah, that too.
Mainly Diggs on that piece. Magic, what do you see here?
Damn, this team is old.
I thought for sure you were going to say good. And I was like braced to be like, wow, you said something nice. And then the word old came out.
Oh, sorry. I was just looking at your second-year player who's already 26.
Oh, Velus Jones? Yeah, man. Yeah, he's super old.
Oh my God, 26, 2 years in. You know, he's the starting wide receiver 3 though, so he might get some cardio this year. No, I mean it's a good team. It's a powerhouse team. It's got blow up potential at so many different positions. I mean, quarterback, receiver, Derrick Henry, and I mean we've seen him blow up. George Kittle has, he's either tight end 1 or tight end 22. But I mean, it's just like, anytime I play Stokes, I'm like, I hope this is the week that I get him, because he's only going to lose like 2 or 3 games, and I hope I get one of those. And sometimes I don't. It's like, oh, well, that was a good team. What do you do?
And what bit you, Stokes, was in the playoffs, Hill was on one leg, and Diggs was just not getting the ball, and then Keenan Allen got hurt. So like your receivers were the strength of your team, and they all kind of died at the same time. And
That's what happens when you're old.
Henry did nothing against. Maybe Henry may have actually had a decent game against Jackson. No, that was the last week. Henry didn't do anything for you in the playoffs. So our playoff game wasn't even remotely close, was it? It was kind of okay. I'm not like saying that as like a jerk. I just kind of forgot. All right. Well, yeah, Josh Allen, you're not going to trade him. I wonder if you'd consider trading Diggs. We shall see. Fish. Patrick Mahomes, Tony Pollard. I would say. Well, I mean, he had what a situation he was in last year and couldn't make it work. So we'll see if that is okay. Chuba Hubbard is sneaky interesting because he took over for Miles Sanders last year, and while he's not a great running back, I like as a player, I think he's productive from a volume standpoint. And then Magic's already mentioned Tank Dell. I think Dobbs is a decent receiver. Godwin always kind of gets his. Bobo the Clown, Antonio Gibson, Kendre Miller. Is
Who's
this
Bobo the Clown?
Martavis.
Martavis Bryant? And
What?
Bobo, who's Bobo the Clown? Are you not familiar with Bobo?
Oh,
This
Jake
is
Bobo.
Jake Bobo. This is DFS gold. Anytime one of the receivers in Seattle is remotely hurt, you just plug in Jake Bobo at minimum price and he scores a touchdown.
Jake Bobo is on my watch list, and he got picked up before I could do something.
Oh, okay. Bobo the Clown. I don't even know who Jay Brooks is. Okay. Jay, I feel like sometimes Fish just like rosters people because their names are cool. He traded a first for Kadarius Toney. That didn't work out. I understand what he was thinking when he did that. What's his pick situation? He's in good shape. He's in very good shape. He has 1.5 and 1.6, and he has his 2. So his pick situation is very good. He's had a lot of poor luck, like Cam Akers getting hurt, not good luck. Mark Andrews being hurt last year, not good luck. He has a chance this draft to build on what he got from Tank Dell last year, and Pollard and Hubbard give him a shot at running back. Magic. Oh, Josh Downs is a nice player too. Magic, what do you think about this roster? We were kind of laughing at that, but I think I've seen plenty worse rosters tonight.
If he had a quarterback, he might be able to do something.
Oh yeah, I was like, wait a minute, Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, he's very, very deep at receiver. He's got Hunter Renfrow, Michael Gallup, so Martavis Bryant. So I mean, he's deeper than shallow at receiver.
He's so deep he has guys that aren't even in the league anymore.
Yeah, I mean, listen, with picks 1.5 and 1.6, he can take 2 receivers, and then worry about running back later. I don't think this is. I mean, does he even need 2 receivers? This might be a sneaky playoff team.
God, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so Romeo Dobbs, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Tank Dell, draft 1 receiver, draft a running back. He's got Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mark Andrews at tight end.
Mark Andrews at tight end.
Kendre Miller is not nothing, by the way. I think he has a real chance to take over when Kamara and Williams are out of the way.
Oh, that's right.
But Darnold is going to at least get the first crack, I think, to start in Minnesota. I don't expect that to amount to much, but maybe he can have a hot start.
He's
Gibson,
got Derek Carr. He's a solid backup for when Mahomes is out or on bye or whatever.
Gibson could be the guy in New England. They just signed him to a multi-year deal. And, who knows? They targeted him to get him some money. I hear Stokes yawning. Let's get to the number 1 seed last year. Justin Herbert, Alvin Kamara, Bijan, Calvin Ridley, Drake London, Devontae Adams, Dalton Schultz, who stayed in Houston, Rashad White. This is a really good team. Bryce Young, not so much. Easton Stick. That had to be one of those, like, pick them up for the playoffs. Devon A-Chain. Wow. Okay. This is a good team, Stokes. Like I think if you put A-Chain in for Kamara, like you figure Kamara's probably going to fall off sooner rather than later. Talk about a future of A-Chain, Robinson, and Rashad White with Drake London now having a real quarterback, and Calvin Ridley if he goes, not to New England. Like this has a chance to be a really good team.
Yeah, I mean he's the new RVD at running back. Like when we're looking at his roster, like we look at RVDs after season 1. It's like his roster is really, really stacked, and he did what we said. He attacked his window. He made trades for guys that he thought were going to help him get to where he needed to get in the playoffs, and like he ended up with the number 1 seed. So, you look at that roster, and it is really, really, really stacked with high end talent and players that you don't expect is going to be any worse going forward. So I like the way his team is built. I mean, I'd be okay if that was how my team looked, but he and I don't do it the same way, I guess.
I mean, you don't. I'm your friend, so I'm going to be kind and just say you don't.
Thanks.
He likes the young guys with upside.
Yeah.
Silly Laura. But one thing I did notice, Magic, for as good as his team is, he's going to need those young guys to come through because he basically has taken this draft off.
Hey, as well, two of the people here have shown you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you've had picks.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's why I didn't include you, not because you're not a winner, because two of us are winners, and then there's Stokes. So as long as you have a good foundation.
I've had the top score on the season 2 years in a row.
How many trophies you got for that?
second place winnings 2 years in a row.
I almost said like that and $1 will buy you a Coke, but then I realized you actually did get paid 2 years in a row because of that.
Yeah.
So.
Nice.
Damn it.
Must be nice. He's got a good team, and I think we said coming in last year, if you can nail his picks last year, this could be a sneaky playoff team. And look at that, not so sneaky.
Yeah, he missed with Bryce Young, but he hit with Devon Achane. So
yeah.
And I'm not giving up on Young, by the way. I think CJ Stroud was so excellent. I don't know that Bryce Young is ever going to be like somebody you love starting in fantasy, but I think maybe, he could still be like Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. So 3 teams from now, he'll be useful for an aged receiver.
Yeah, like a small number 1 overall pick that shouldn't have gotten picked before the 2 freakishly athletic guys that were clearly better. But hey,
yeah, but our league is not a super flex league, so you can miss on quarterback and be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can't imagine he took Bryce Young very high. He had Justin Herbert.
Yeah, he had to be like a round 2, maybe.
I guess a second round pick.
Yeah, it's a good spot to take him at. Maybe I'll see if he wants to bail on Bryce Young and simulate Bryce Young for a 4th round pick. Boom, get her done. Throw in Bijan Robinson too. All right, guys, this was fun. I would assume the next time for us to do this, I was thinking about this. I don't know that we necessarily want to do this before the rookie draft because unless we just can find a way to fake it, maybe right after the rookie draft, or maybe we do something live during the rookie draft. Because it's 12-hour picks. That'd be kind of fun to go live like in the middle of the draft and just kind of talk shit.
When is the draft?
I think
there's like a date countdown.
60 days or something like that.
It's the 1st or 2nd week of May. You might be
Monday.
There's a countdown on the homepage.
Do we know if hospitals near you have good signal, Magic?
Monday, May 13th. I think there's a decent chance I might be occupado.
Mm-hmm. Marvin Harrison Jr. on the same day we get Anthony Richardson Jr.
Oh, we have a name. I'll let you guys know when we sign off.
Oh, okay.
So,
Josh. What?
What?
Did you say your own name?
No. That how arrogant would I have to be to do that?
I don't know. Bring Jackie on.
Josh. What? Jackie's long ago asleep.
Yeah.
All right, guys, this was fun. We'll talk in chat about like rule topic ideas and stuff. And we'll hope you guys enjoy this. We definitely enjoy hopping on here. We told Stokes we wouldn't go longer than an hour, and look at us, we're at an hour and a half. All right, we will see you guys later, AFL.